We also have a massive problem with an expansionist China. China building up, particularly in terms of its navy, claiming strips of land in the South China Sea, and clearly stating its territorial aims on Taiwan. China is a very real threat.
Less so militarily, to be honest.
Then China as a power, they are a lot like Soviet era Russia in that a lot of their technology is a paper tiger.
Yeah,
their technology is frankly, it's a whole generation behind Western military technology. All they've really got is numbers.
Yeah,
that's all they've got. That is their one advantage, and I do not think they could hold out in a sustained war with the West, and I think they know that.
Yeah,
because their training is inferior, their military organization is inferior. There's likely a lot of corruption within the military itself because it's a state institution.
Yeah.
It's a state institution
a very deep state, very dictatorial state. So yes, there's likely to be a lot of corruption.
There's a lot of corruption, and it's just generally not a very. It's not. The military is not very stable, and even if it was stable, like their strongest military asset is their army. Their navy is. The navy's like third rate. It's not good.
They have one aircraft carrier that's not consistently on fire, don't they?
Yeah, I believe so.
So yeah, in terms of being afraid of China, being concerned about China makes sense, but not for the direct reasons. Don't be concerned about their military. Don't be concerned about their navy, as we're saying. Be concerned about the fact that they appear to own a lot of politicians, a lot of corporations, and the only reason that they have the money to pay for that is because they've paid for that. I think it starts with, we'll dump a load of cash on a US politician and we'll get prioritized trade. And then over the years, we'll continue that cycle of dumping more cash on politicians, getting more prioritized trade, cheating just a little bit more, just enough so that they can, hide it from. And that cycle continues and continues. And in the end, the nations who create wealth feed this dragon, this evil force, this beast that we've grown through our own ineptitude, through our own complacency. It's not difficult to resolve that problem. Just stop feeding it. And literally in some senses. But yes, as you say, I do think China is almost entirely paper. But until we stop feeding it, it is a threat. Not just to us either. China is making shit worse for everyone in the world.
Basically, if we even if we didn't necessarily bring the manufacturing jobs back to the UK, even if we just transferred them from China to Africa, the pretty much China as a country would be finished.
Yeah, I think Trump's tariffs, if put into place for say 10 years, might finish their economy. It wouldn't take much. It wouldn't take much. I mean, Motch,
especially considering
go on, British Knight.
I was going to say, especially considering they've got the largest debt to GDP ratio in the world, and most of their debt is owed to the United States.
Didn't know that.
So if the United States called on those debts, they're fucked pretty much.
I mean, Motch, I showed you a couple of days ago a picture of Chinese mansions which are being used for coal storage, not as mansions. Like a dozen of them, proper huge mansions in this picture, which are disused. They're just being used to store coal and shit. So yeah, they are dangerous.
Wasn't it they were using it as cow sheds?
Oh yes, it was that. Sorry, cows, coal, same thing. They're dangerous in the ways that they have built up that ability to cheat, to fuck with other people in the world, but at the core, it's hollow. It's a rotted out tree.
Or as a friend of mine in America says, China. China's a threat, the Middle East's on fire, and there is a war going on in Ukraine where something like 0.5 to 1 million men have already been killed or seriously wounded. And what
Wouldn't trust those numbers. Have you seen, British Knight, the quality of the plaster in Ukraine on the outsides of the buildings? It's like adamantium. And the glass, unbreakable. It's very impressive. Have you seen the pictures?
I haven't, no.
Of like cars upturned and burned out, like there's been an explosion, there's been a bomb blast, rubble everywhere. Yet the plaster of the buildings right next to the bomb blast is fully intact and standard, like it was just installed there. The glass is all intact in the building. Now, it's not outrageous to suggest that some war photography could be faked, because during, I think it was the Syria war a few years ago, we got definite proof, and I'm sure there was before that, but that was when I saw definite proof, that yes, war photography is regularly faked. And not just, yeah, well, this picture is fake, but it's representative of what I actually saw on the front. No, actual rank fakery of situations. So I wouldn't be surprised if the war was paper just as much as China is. Not completely, but greatly exaggerated.
Well, considering if you go back to 2022, a few news outlets did unironically use Armour 3 footage.
Yes.
And
yes.
believing it was footage from Ukraine. Yes. I would go to say it's not necessarily difficult to fool either the general public or the media in regards to what is and isn't going on in war.
Yeah. Well, the public do figure these things out, but they take time. So, but I think it is happening. The fact that we figured it out means that eventually the rest of the public will figure it out too. As Soldner says, yeah, it doesn't take a nuke to open the Three Gorges Dam, as far as I understand. And to add to your point, British Knight, if China ever got into a proper war, it would be over as fast as it begun, because all it would take was someone to drop a few bombs on the Three Gorges Dam.
Yeah, pretty much. We know where all the strategic points are, and we know they wouldn't be able to mobilize quick or effectively enough to stop us.
Yeah.
So it'd likely be it short of nukes unironically getting fired. It would be over it'd likely be over in maybe a couple of weeks.
Interesting, I do actually. The US could certainly beat China in that kind of a war, but I wonder, just hypothetically, if the UK, just the UK, with none of its allies, had to fight China, if it was a war, like an army versus army, we wouldn't win. We have a tiny army. It's a very specialized army, but it's very tiny. But if we have just enough rockets, just enough ICBMs to take down the Three Gorges Dam, one country, possibly we could actually beat China in a war.
This is getting into the old the old nerdy arguments of, does Britain have prep time?
Yes, yeah, indeed.
So I think it would be difficult to pull off if this was like a mutual thing, but not impossible. But if this was something, if we were launching a preemptive strike on China without their foreknowledge, yes, we could probably win a war with China.
I reckon we could, yeah. I'm not talking about nukes on that. ICBMs with just non-nuclear explosives would be enough. You just need to target it well enough.